Bo Jackson has had a strong start to his Buckeye career. Is it time for him to start?
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Thursday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. During today's show, we will discuss if Hartline is going to get done as an offensive play caller and if the Buckeyes should make any changes to their offense during the off week. But before we get to any of that, we're going to touch on Bo Jackson once again. And here to join us for the entirety of today's show is Coach Mo Murphy. I normally just call him Mo, but he is a coach now, so I got to give him the proper title. He is the host of the Coach Mo Murphy Show, and you can follow him on Twitter at Coach Mo Murphy. And Mo is my guy. Mo's been around here for quite a bit. And I wanted to get him on because unfortunately we had a little scheduling conflict the last time we tried to get him on. He had something, I had something, so we kind of had to reschedule this thing. And I'm glad we're doing it after Bo Jackson had another game where he went over 100 yards. And to me, Mo, he looks like the best running back for this offense through 3 games. Like, he did play against Texas, so we don't know what he's going to do against, we haven't seen game film of him against one of them power conference teams. But from what we have seen in 2 games, he not only to me is the best back for the offense and it clicks the best when he's out there. Mo, I think Bo Jackson should start when the Buckeyes return to play against Washington.
I feel like that's the one thing that's obvious when watching Ohio State's offense. I mean, other than like Jeremiah Smith is still Jeremiah Smith. But Bo Jackson has been the best running back. Now, as a running back room, they all bring something different. But I think what the thing is, Bo Jackson brings explosive plays, and then he brings a little bit of CJ Donaldson and a little bit of elusiveness like James Peoples. So, like, he is a solid combination to get everything you want out of a running back. And we came into this year thinking, our running backs will be good. They'll be cool. James Peoples supposed to be cool. CJ Donaldson is supposed to be cool. Like, no disrespect, they're good. But, kind of drop off from Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Now, obviously, we're fans that have been spoiled at the running back position. But as we think that it's going to be, average to above average year at running back, here comes Bo Jackson, a true freshman who looks like the next great running back, who looks like he's going to have a career just as good as J.K. Dobbins or Ezekiel Elliott or Travion Henderson, or a year or two like Quinshon Judkins. Whatever it may be, he seems like he's one of those guys to be in the same realm as that group of guys that I just listed. So, yes, he should start. And I feel like it's pretty obvious because it's just like the offense just looks different every time he touches the ball.
And I think for Ryan Day, and he's talking about emphasizing ball security and pass protection, that's not just for a true freshman running back. That's any running back on any team around the country. Your head coach is going to emphasize taking care of the football and making sure you protect the quarterback. That's even run blocking too, because you mentioned Henderson and Judkins. They were phenomenal blockers last year. That's what made the Buckeyes offense kind of click at times, was you knew in any given moment, if you need one of those guys to block, they were going to be above average blockers every single time. You only get to learn that by experience and by practice and by getting on the field and playing week after week after week. And you can't hold a guy back, even if he's talented enough to start. You got to put him out there and let him show you he can do it. Now, we don't know what happens in practice. I don't think he's fumbling all the time, because if he's fumbling all the time, he wouldn't be on the field. If he can't block anybody, he wouldn't be on the field on Saturday. So I think he does a lot of those things correctly. And I think Ryan Day just needs to back away a little bit. Or maybe it's Lachlan. Maybe he doesn't have the trust of Lachlan for him to start. I think he'll get that. If he doesn't have it now, I think he'll get that over time. But he can also kind of gain some more trust right now while the Buckeyes aren't preparing for a game, so he can start. Because I think if you start him and then play Donaldson, or start him and then play James Peoples, the opposing defense is not going to want the combination where Jackson's the guy, and then you have that change of pace back with either Donaldson or Peoples being the backup.
Yeah, but then so everything you said as far as, we all think like he's the obvious starter, but you also maybe think like maybe Ryan Day is kind of stepping in because the standard of true freshmen and playing time at Ohio State really hasn't been a thing. Like there's a very, very, very short list of true freshmen that ever came in and started. Let alone that list gets even shorter when you're talking about immediate like star impact, like as soon as they touch the field. And that's Jeremiah Smith. And so every once in a while, a generational guy comes along, and no matter whether you're a big program that starts freshman or not, a guy like Jeremiah Smith has to touch the field. But now with like Bo Jackson, you're easing into because he's still a true freshman. Yeah. And so another year, another true freshman coming in and kind of taking over the reins from, the veteran guys that have been there, worked and waited their turn. Like, as a true freshman, still knowing that you have at least 2 more years at Ohio State after this year. Like, I don't think there's also a rush as opposed to James Peoples and Donaldson giving them every look possible before you make the decision, which seems like an inevitable decision that you got to be a guy like the coach before you. You just play the best players. It doesn't matter what grade you're in. It doesn't matter how long you've been with the program. It doesn't matter what you've done for the program previously. You got to play the best players. And I think right now, Bo Jackson is the best running back that we have. But I get the hesitancy because our offense hasn't sputtered to the point where like we have a running back issue and it has to be Bo Jackson or else we can't run the ball.
I think when it comes to starting him, and I agree with what you said, I think when it comes to starting him, the offense can take another step if he is not only starting, but also being like that featured back, because and I said this earlier in the week, he's going to pull attention away from Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, because you have to focus on the guy in the backfield. You can't just sit back and put 2 or 3 guys on Jeremiah Smith every single time and think, oh, well, he's a true freshman. We don't have to put all the resources and all the attention on him because he just got on campus. But if he starts starting and he starts getting into a groove and he starts clicking like you and I think he can, that's going to be another nightmare for any defense Ohio State's playing, because now you got a real threat in the backfield, along with Carnell Tate playing a whole lot better this year.
Yeah, and like you said, like the bigger the workload, you would think the more production that he's going to have. So, and we have playmakers everywhere, and it seems like we have this type of offense where as long as you got the capability to get your playmakers the ball, then we're going to be fine. And just like a simple task for Julian saying, as long as you catch that snap and make a clean handoff to Bo Jackson, good things are going to happen. And the more opportunities you give them, the better things are going to be for you, especially in the run game. I don't think the answer is, I don't think it's the offensive line, because when Bo Jackson touches the ball, good things have happened. So you telling me only like the O-line would only block for Bo as opposed to James Peoples? Oh, no, we want him to. No, it's just the O-line do a good job and the guy does everything that the O-line gives him. Like, it's just one of those situations, because I know people always want to point to the offensive line, but when we put our third running back in there and great things happen in the run game, I don't think it's an offensive line problem. I think it's a running back problem. And Peoples and Donaldson don't seem to have that big play ability that we're spoiled and accustomed to as Buckeyes fans. When, we just go down the list of running backs previously, we go down and look at both the running backs that just helped win us a national championship last year and got drafted. So we are spoiled at the running back position, but also as much as it seemed like there would be very little light in the tunnel for the running back expectations this year, Bo Jackson has reignited that.
Yes, he has. And one thing you just mentioned was the offensive line and how they look when Bo Jackson is running the ball. I want to dive deeper into the offensive line and get your thoughts about how that unit has played this year. We'll discuss that after the break. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Ohio State, Carnell Tate has delivered in a big way this year. In every single game, he has come up big, making big-time catches that lead to touchdowns, and he's helped the Ohio State's offense continue moving down the field. When the pressure was on, Carnell Tate came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Carnell Tate is on a streak. And just like Carnell Tate delivered for Ohio State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You save every Saturday you order Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by using FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So, Mo, I really haven't done much talking about the offensive line lately. I did a lot in the offseason leading into the Texas game, but I've kind of left the conversation for another day, and I'm glad that you brought it up because the O-line's played pretty good this year. When you have some guys, some transfers, and Daniels and Onyanwan, you got a new left tackle, you would think that there would be some growing pains or them building chemistry in the first 6 games, or generally off of the line. It takes a little bit longer to build chemistry just because you only get that in real game live situations. They haven't really missed a beat, bro. If anything, they've been playing better than people expected because they came in, didn't allow a sack until game number 3. That wasn't on my radar. I thought they would have given up at least one to Texas because they got dudes over there with the Longhorns. So to me, the offensive line has been pretty solid, maybe better than solid this year.
Yeah, I think definitely better than expected. When you lose a couple guys to the NFL and then you have some guys transferred in that aren't necessarily homegrown guys that have been in the program for a few years and trying to get acclimated to the Buckeye way, Ryan Day's way, and joining a team that just won a national championship. And as much as they lost, they got just as much as returning. So, like, the expectations are still there for Ohio State to be, the top, creme de la creme, cream of the crop, top of the top. And so I think they've done an amazing job. Like you said, Julian Sands been sacked once? He only got sacked once in that Ohio game. Yeah. So he's been sacked once in 3 games. We've played that Texas defense. People can say whatever they want and focus on the Arch Manning part of the conversation, but that Texas defense is still one of the better defenses in the country. And we held Julian Sands upright. We don't give up a lot of plays that are tackles for losses out the backfield either. So to me, the offensive line that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to keep your quarterback upright, and you're supposed to keep the chains moving forward. And so if my running backs are getting the ball and getting positive yards every time they touch the ball, where it's very minimal that we're moving back, I'm doing my job in the run game. And if my quarterback's staying upright and my quarterback's not hitting the ground, I'm doing my job in the pass game. Now, where you compare to one of the 3 best offensive lines in the country, don't know, but everything doesn't have to be comparison of where your unit ranks to the rest of the country as far as what does your unit do for your team on a week in, week out basis, and what is the end result.
Would you change anything with Ohio State's offense right now?
No. I guess no, because what you saw and I know it's Grambling, but what you saw in the Grambling game was what you wanted to see after a 14-7 game against Texas, which was let the playmakers get the ball. Then we come out against Ohio and you think maybe we're going to come and run the same type of offense. And instead the team as a whole just played uninspired football for a first half. But then in the second half, what did we do? Get the playmakers the ball. Who ended up in the end zone? Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Bo Jackson. So I don't know what else you would do differently other than get your playmakers the ball if the offense doesn't seem inspired to play. So, maybe I think I'd like to stretch the field a little more. I think Julian Sands has proven that, okay, we could take risks now. Everything doesn't have to be a clean, drawn-up play for the expectation is him to throw, a guy wide open. We don't have to scheme a guy wide open now. Now I think if a guy can create minimal separation, but, you got big play guys like Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, I think you should test defenses down the field a little more jump balls. I think we should get some jump ball looks in the red zone. Like, you got Carnell Tate, you got Jeremiah Smith. There's not many corners that could go up with either one of those two. So I think from taking risk from your quarterback in that point, setting up for more 50-50 balls and downfield shots, I guess I would like to see that a little more. But overall, like, I don't have complaints on how they operate on first down or second down. Like, we're not in third and long situations very, very often. I like the way they played against that Texas defense. Like, just protect your quarterback. Don't put him in a situation. And you look at, he was 13 for 19, but 3 of those incompletions were drop passes. Like, beautifully thrown balls that were drop passes. So, like, had those been catches, like, his stat line looks a lot better. So I have no complaints. I mean, I don't know what we thought. Like, the Ohio game, I guess the complaints would be how we look coming out of the Ohio game, but just focus on the second half. Like, because the first half, everybody just played uninspired football. It literally looked, me, and Jeff had talked about it. Like, it just looks like they don't want to be out there. Yeah. And so in the second half, it was also like, you get yelled at a little bit and you just realize, like, I got, all these weapons. Like, just give them the ball, bust this thing open and get up out of here.
Yeah, it was uninspired. And I think the uninspired part, something that really frustrates, I know all three of us, when we watch the game and just be the fans we are, it's like, why are y'all playing like this? But I saw that they had almost 300 yards of offense. So it wasn't like they weren't able to move the ball. They just didn't score in the red zone. Like, if they punched some of those things in, we're talking about, 13-3 at halftime? You're looking at a team that's scoring 24 to 28 points in the first half with what they did offensively. It was literally the red zone. And I do think the red zone issues that they had against Ohio, they're going to fix those. So I'm not really worried about it. That's early season stuff. When you have new guys, a new offense, new players, there's going to be some struggles. And I think right now Ryan Day has earned the right to get the benefit of the doubt that these early season struggles will not be struggles all year.
I mean, he's also in these struggles. He's 3-0. Like, yep. Julian Sand looks like a good enough quarterback that's going to do a good enough job at the very least. I'm not saying I think Julian Sand's going to be, by the end of the season, he's going to be a dude. But right now he's doing everything that you would ask for an Ohio State quarterback in the first 3 weeks. Like, outside of what he threw 2 picks against Ohio, obviously you'd rather your quarterback throw no picks, but still, when you threw multiple touchdown passes and you were a big reason why we bust open the game in the second half. And like you said, I mean, we got stopped on 4th and goal. Like, on the 1 yard line. Like, come on now. And then, so after that, it shied Ryan Day away from being aggressive for the rest of the game because we went 2 more times in the red zone, 4th and 2 and 4th and 3, left 2 yards, 3 yards left, and we kicked field goals. So to me, that was, we got stopped the first time. And now, anytime, we're not going to leave points out there on the field anymore. Like, anytime we have an opportunity to put points on the board on Ohio, whether it's 3, 6, 7, whatever it may be, they're going to put points on the board and we're just going to get up out of here. Like, you don't have to win by style points. The style points days is over. Like, this isn't the BCS rankings. You don't have to convince people that you're one of the 4 best teams in the country week in and week out. Like, the style points is wins and losses is what matters. That is what matters at the end of the day. And I think Ryan Day knows that. And that's why he called the Texas game the way he did or had, instructed Brian Hartline. That's why the game plan was the way it was for the Texas game. That's why we came out swinging and just showing off our fancy weapons in the Grambling game to remind y'all that it wasn't about Texas shutting us down. It was just all we had to do was win. And Ryan Day was big on that right after the game. And then in the Ohio game, you can't control necessarily. You could try and blame Ryan Day if you want, but if your players go out there and you feel like you've done all the preparation all week and done everything you can do to get them ready to play, and they just come out there uninspired because they look on the other side and know that they're going to beat that team, you can't control that. But what you could control is whatever it seems like you said at halftime that inspired the team at least long enough to extend this lead and stop having to stress Ohio State fans out for the rest of the night.
There's one thing I think was saying that I like to see more of, and it's something already in the playbook, so it's not something that I think Brian Hartline and Ryan Day haven't already thought of, is trying to get Sand on the move a little bit more and get him out of the pocket to move the ball with his arm. He looked pretty good moving. I think it was moving to his right through a ball towards the sideline, where a lot of young quarterbacks, they can roll out, but they don't get the footwork right. They don't get their shoulders right. They can't be accurate with the ball. And he is doing that. And it seemed like repetition, not something that he was doing for the first time in the game, which I think it was maybe the first or second time in the game. But it looked like it was just almost like a kid riding a bike or an adult riding a bike that hadn't rode a bike in a long time. You say you don't ride a bike for 5 years. You get one. You're excited like a kid in a candy shop. All of a sudden, you get on it thinking it might be a struggle. No, it's just like clockwork, baby. It just goes and keeps going and going and going. And Sam looked like he's already in a rhythm there. So I wouldn't say overhaul change some of the play calls we've already seen. I just say see more of them. Because if you get that boy out of the pocket moving a little bit, I mean, you've already seen him make big plays to Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate. Get him rolling and get Ennis in space. Dog, that's 30, 40 yards easy because Ennis should be a monster in space.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just like when you look, we have the weapons like to really do whatever it is we want to do. And I think like coming off of, winning the national championship, like I think we're playing the long game now. Like the monkey is off Ryan Day's back as far as having to be pedal to the metal and make a statement that we're the best team in the country and we could play with anybody. Like he did it. And I'm not saying that he's not going to do it again and he's satisfied with one. That's not what I'm saying. But now, like the pressure of your approach is like, as long as I'm winning, it's like until it becomes a concern, it's not. And I think that's kind of how they're approaching this season is like until it really becomes a concern, which we'll find out when we get there, it's not a concern because we know like we just got too many guys that have a switch that when they turn it on, we're still the most talented team in the country. And we still have a quarterback that we trust. And as we're gaining trust in him and maybe he gets put in a scenario where he has to really go out there and win a game with his arm. And we'll see how that looks. I think that's what everybody else is intrigued to see is like, you just don't know when it's, 17-17 going into halftime. And then you're going into the fourth quarter and it's 31-31. So clearly like the defenses aren't playing their best. So you're going to have to score some points in the fourth quarter. Like we don't know what he looks like in those situations, but my thing is I'd love to make it all the way to the playoffs without finding out. Yeah. Like people, I want to see him in that situation, but I don't. And when you do, you get to see, but I'd love to be, 13-0 Big Ten champs and never had to really see a test, never had to see a tight fourth quarter. But when that opportunity comes, when that situation comes, we'll see what it looks like. But I think that's the only thing that people are desiring is what is this team going to look like when everything's close? Because you've seen what the defense looked like. And like with knowing that the game plan was just to protect Julian, saying you were fine with it, you weren't asking him to win with his arm. But when it calls for him to win with his arm, like what is it going to look like? But we won't know until we get there. And maybe I think the thing is everybody right now is fearing that it's going to be that Washington game at Washington on the road coming off a bye week.
We'll talk about that next week. Mo might have to come back on the show to discuss that one because that was the one game I scheduled in the offseason as the one outside of Michigan. That one game that's on the road that is tougher than everybody thinks. But after the break, we're going to dive into some of offensive play calling from Brian Hartline and see if there's anything that we should change with him. And also, Mo had something special happen with this podcast. We'll discuss both of those after the break. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. So, Mo, you hit me up, I don't know if it was Tuesday or Monday, you talked about the pod you were about to record, and I want you to take some time here before we touch on Hartline to discuss the special day you had on your podcast and who you had on the show.
Yeah, bro. Appreciate you for letting me get a quick little plug, but everybody that listens to you on a daily basis and has heard me on, like, I'm a huge Ohio State fan, and me having my own podcast, like, a dream of mine is just to be talking to Ohio State players. And so today that happened. And not only did I just get to talk to a former Ohio State player, but a former national champion and a former first-round draft pick in Gareon Conley. So we had a conversation. The plan came in. I'm like, I respected his time. I'm like, look, bro, I just want about 30 minutes to just be able to have a conversation and talk about the national championship team, talk about your road to get to Ohio State, your road as a pro, and just chop it up and whatever you're willing to give me for 30 minutes. And then an hour later, we're ending the conversation. I think he probably still could have kept going had I not went ahead and rounded up the show, like, it was a great conversation. It was a great insight, and I just let him go. I had some questions and he answered everything. Went into detail about, certain situations that I wasn't even going to bring up. Like, he was 100% real about everything, but just to be able to talk to a guy that was just in the locker room, part of that brotherhood and part of a national championship team. And a guy like, and Gareon Conley, who you're going to know that name when you talk about that team 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, as we're sharing the stories, like that team in that era doesn't get talked about with a guy like Gareon Conley being a first round pick and being in that secondary. And we know, they're always in the conversation for DBU. So yeah, bro, I had a great conversation with Gareon Conley. It went well. You can check it out on the Coach Mo Murphy podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, preferably Substack. Go ahead and visit my Substack, but just the Coach Mo Murphy podcast anywhere. Clips are out on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter as well. The link is on Twitter. So, definitely just if you're interested in Ohio State and want to get away from, we're entering a bye week. So if you want to get away from the bye week and just, hear a former Buckeye talk about, himself and give some insight on his journey, then definitely check it out. It can maybe, relax your brainwaves a little bit for those that are stressing out for this Washington game.
I hope nobody's stressing out about what Hartline has done as he's calling plays consistently this year. And for a first-time play caller, I was kind of up in the air. I didn't know what to expect. He had never done it before, and so I didn't really have a blueprint of, he did this in high school. This was his kind of blueprint. This is how he got him moved around and worked with the guys. We don't have any of that, so we literally have no idea what to expect. But one thing Ryan Day did was he said it's his Ohio State's offense. Now there's different variations and different looks of Ohio State's offense when Ryan Day was calling it versus Chip Kelly. Like, you could be a little creative with it. And we're seeing Hartline quickly put his fingerprints all over the offensive play calling so far. And through 3 games, Ma really can't complain about what he's done.
Yeah, like I said, every time I talk about the offense, I don't have major complaints. It's like, for those that are complaining, what is it that you expect? What were you expecting through these first 3 weeks? What are you not seeing enough of that leaves your heart desired to say, like, Brian Hartline, maybe we need to go into the ball. I've seen people say maybe Ryan Day needs to take back over the play calling, but I'm just like, what is it that we're not doing? Like, is it just you never really wanted Hartline to get the job in the first place? Like, you were cool with him just being the wide receivers coach and getting all these 5-stars in the building? Like, because I don't have major complaints about the offense. Like, because at the same time, do you want to see that everything? I don't want to see everything that Brian Hartline has up his sleeve against Grambling in Ohio. Right. What he's shown me is what we've known, that he got playmakers everywhere. And when he decides to put the ball in their hands, they're going to make plays and great things are going to happen for the offense. So any trick plays or schematic plays, I wouldn't be expecting to have seen them if I didn't see it in the Texas game. If, like they told you, they came in with a simple game plan, just win. Just don't lose. Like the whole thing was like, just don't lose. The defense going to do what they got to do. Just don't lose this game. And then you follow it up with Grambling. We give all the playmakers the ball, and you follow up with an uninspiring first half, but a playmaker touches the ball, get in the end zone in the second half. I don't know what else you want to see. I don't want to see the entire playbook being open at this point. Now, if you come off the bye week and you're talking about, like, we're getting into conference play. Now I want you to go on the road and make a statement and we should see some great things for the offense. Okay, cool. And then if you come away from that less desired about what you saw based on play calling alone and not Julian saying threw the ball bad or Jeremiah Smith had multiple drops or our running backs had multiple fumbles, if it's not a game like that and it solely seems like, bro, what are we doing? It's 2nd and 7 and we're sitting here running a halfback dive every time, then okay. But up to this point, like, that's not been the case. Anything that you aren't satisfied with, to me, is like a lack of effort from the players. And that's in the Ohio game. Nobody had complaints about the Grambling game, one way or the other. Like, nobody took it as a major positive. Nobody took it as a negative. It's just like we went out there and did what we were supposed to do, following beating Texas. That's what we want to see from a team that's talented. Everybody's complaint is all about the first half of the Ohio game. Through 3 weeks, we're complaining about one half of football and a win. Anybody complaining about Brian Hartline is because we only scored 13 points in the first half against Ohio, because he's done everything else he's needed to do through the other, minus 2 quarters. He's done everything he needs to do. So I think he's getting the job done. But we'll see. Now that we're coming into conference play, now that it's not going to be Ohio, now that it's not going to be Grambling, now that a couple of the Big Ten schools got some quarterbacks that can make some plays on their side as well, that's going to test your defense, it's time to start thinking about how is Julian saying and crew, what am I going to call to test these other defenses? Because now it's about to start coming time. We can say what we want about Washington. It's still a conference opponent. They're not Ohio and they're not Grambling. So you're going to have to figure out ways for your offense to test their defense as well, because a lot of these teams got some decent quarterbacks at the worst, but there's a lot of very good quarterback play going around the country, let alone in the Big Ten. So I just think you're going to have to figure out offensively. We can't ride on defense all year. That's my only thing. But up to this point, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Brian Hartline has done everything I would want to see him do with 2 of your 3 opponents being Grambling and Ohio.
Mo, the one thing about that Ohio game in that first half, that wasn't on Hartline. Like, if you are an offensive play caller, you expect your guys, you're in the Big Ten, you're Ohio State, you expect them to get 2 yards at 4th and goal to get into the end zone when you're playing a MAC school. I don't care if you're playing Ohio or another MAC school. It doesn't matter. You expect your guys, when you call a play, to get those yards. That's not on Hartline. That's not on the coach. It's on the players. To me, Hartline, if you get stopped in the red zone, I don't always put that on the coach. It goes for the NFL too. If you're in the NFL and you get down and it's 3rd and goal on the 8, 4th and goal on the 3, your guys are supposed to be able to get that. Now, it's different in the NFL because everybody is legitimately on the same level. So I get like the different levels there, but that ain't no Hartline, man. He's calling the plays. The players are prepared to play. They know the playbook. You have a first-time starting quarterback that has total command of the entire offense when he's on the field. That goes to Hartline and the plays that he's calling that he knows his quarterback is comfortable with. The only issue that I have with the offense, it is not on Hartline. It is literally your guys against Ohio couldn't get those short yardage plays that you're going to need to get against Washington, against Wisconsin, against Michigan to beat them, that snap that streak. That's it. That's on the players, not the coach.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, to me, the biggest complaint was effort. And so that's why we get in the red zone and we don't score. That's why it's 4th and goal on the 1 and we don't get the push, which kind of, I don't want to say scares, but pushes Ryan Day in the direction as a team and maybe even Brian Hartline as an offense to just play it safe. If we get in the red zone and we get on 4th down, take the points. Period. We need to put points on the board. Our defense is going to hold they're going to hold their own. Ohio's not going to go crazy enough that even if we just kick none but field goals every time we touch the ball, we're going to win the game. They're not going to score enough points for it to really matter. And so, like I said, like sometimes the approach, we as fans want them to be aggressive. We expected Sand to have 450 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. We expected Jeremiah Smith to have 200 yards off of 10 catches, big play after big play. We expected Carnell Tate to find the end zone on a big play down the field and have 100-plus yards. Like, we had all these expectations of superstar performances coming into the Ohio game. And then once we struggled in the first half, it's like now, Ohio State fans do get quick. We get quick to be so negative because we're so spoiled and the standard is so high that the minute we slip for 1 too many plays or 1 too many drives, there's a lot of cause for concern or a lot of things that people need to think about when it could just be the simple thing, man, we just won. That's it. Like, everybody walk away. They probably see what you see, but we won. Like, when you say all that, it's like we say all this to say we still won the game. We can point out every negative we want. We still won 30-something. Like, we still put up 30 points. We still beat Texas 14-7. We still put up 70, against Grambling like we were supposed to do. So it's like we can say all these negative things to try and get on Hartline, but you and me both agree he's been doing. I mean, nobody said they hired the greatest offensive coordinator ever. That's the thing. Nobody said that he was going to be a better mind than Chip Kelly. So if you put that expectation on Brian Hartline, that's your fault. Like, if you have this expectation that Brian Hartline, because he's a great wide receivers coach who happened to play the position at Ohio State, and he's also a likable guy and a great recruiter to the point that every wide receiver, he's created an NFL pipeline at the wide receiver position. If because of that, your expectation was he's some offensive guru, I would say, like, if he was that, he would have been gone. But he can also develop into not necessarily offensive guru, but a very good offensive coordinator under an offensive guru in his head coach and Ryan Day.
That's my guy, Mo Murphy. You can follow him on Twitter at Coach Mo Murphy. You can follow his podcast and check him out with the show he just released with former Buckeye Gareon Conley. It's the Coach Mo Murphy show. It's Great show, great pod. Mo and him had a great conversation. Taking that from Mo's word, I hadn't listened to it at the time of this recording. I'm definitely going to tap into it and see what that conversation is all about. You can follow me on any social media platform, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, doesn't matter, at jstevens07. You can send every email to jstevens317 at gmail.com. This has been Locked on Buckeyes on a Thursday. We'll see you next time.